Igbos were known to be blacksmiths back in the day. It was a system or a model whereby young boys, they get trained in the blacksmith business. And after a while, you understand the nitty-gritty of the blacksmith business. They now set up your own blacksmith business and empower you to go on. So it continued from generation to generation.
As much as it's been a beautiful system coming forward, don't we think that it's time for a more advanced approach to the system?
Using this system, it kind of gives ultimate power to your master over the person who is working under him.
I think people don't have the patience to even serve someone for those number of years, because actually you're not getting a salary.
Harvard Business School did a research and said it's the best system in upscaling businesses, entrepreneurship, and even venture capital, because that's the earliest form of venture capital in the history of Africa. It was simply because of the apprenticeship system, the Nwa Boys as they call them. For me to sound a little bit controversial, why don't we have the Nwa girls?
The Igbos are one of the most entrepreneurial people on the African continent, and they've managed to build wealth and spread it across their region through great wit and tenacity. And I really admire their spirits. You know, like, if I wasn't Yandan, I would want to be Igbo. I like their worldview. I like the way they push and go after what they want, you know, and I like the whole mentality of no man should be left behind. You know, like you go to the market, you want to buy something, even when you don't find it there, an Igbo man will not let you go. He'll be like, I get them from my brother's shop.
True.
You know, that you don't leave your brother behind. If you don't have it, you go and get it from your brother's shop. So as much as I admire that, sometimes I'm like, do I want to pay extra for that? Because while I'm waiting, I'm like, maybe he'll go and add extra 5K. But then at the same time, that's the price you pay for the convenience of sitting down waiting for someone to bring it for you. And it's all business. You know, it's not cheating. It's not marking up the prices or whatever. It's business, it's entrepreneurship, and it's all part of that entrepreneurial game. So I would say that I like that spirit, even though I have some reservations about it. But, you know, what do you guys think about it?
I think it's the great thing about that entrepreneurship system or the apprenticeship system that the Igbos have inculcated over time. It has actually helped them in expanding and building wealth across, you know, the Igbo tribe. And it will also shock you to know that this practice or this system started long before now. I'm talking about the 9th to the 14th century AD.
Wow.
Now, the Igbos were known to be blacksmiths back in the day. And it was a system or a model whereby young boys, it could be family members, it could be, you know, people from your clan, they get trained in the blacksmith business. And after a while, you understand the nitty-gritty of the blacksmith business. They now set up your own blacksmith business and empower you to go on. So it continued from generation to generation, whereby you see it's a system that has actually helped them overcome a whole lot of challenges that the Igbos have seen or gone through, especially after the Civil War.
Yeah.
Because most people will be like, how did these people bounce back so quickly after the Civil War?
And even overtake other people.
Exactly. It was simply because of the apprenticeship system, the Nwa Boys as they call them, that has actually helped them in building the kind of success and also spreading the wealth that they have.
I mean, yeah, I get you. I think the Nwa Boy system is, you know, a beautiful system, mentorship, all that. And
However,
the question marks
I knew
are
it.
coming.
However, was coming.
They're coming.
however, don't we think that it's time for a more advanced approach to the system?
I agree.
You know, scaling that system, because there are so many incidences and stories. I mean, there's also the Nollywood portrayal of the Nwa Boy system, but we'll come to that later, right? There's when you look at it, there are some Nwa boys that are, you know, fraudulent, end up duping their masters, end up staying with them for a period of time and taking. I mean, in those kind of trainings, when that person graduates and does their freedom, you know that they're taking your market share to some extent as well.
Some of your
because
clients,
they're going to set up somewhere.
Some of your loyal
they're the ones that have
customers.
been attending to your clients. So some of them are going with your clients, right? Which is not a bad thing. Do you understand? When it's willingly given. But then you now have the devious ones that deliberately, pull the rug from under you and make sure that your business suffers when they are leaving.
True.
That's on that side, right? But even the masters too. Excuse me, it started in a time where basic needs were, hard to find, shelter, food, and then they would take on this child in order to train them. But now we're in a time in the world where things are slightly different, right? Does it still need to be as... I understand that there are some people that still go through these basic challenges, but you now have some people who prey on that vulnerability and need.
True.
Right?
Yes.
Where up front, they don't say, oh, look, you're going to go and work in my shop. Oh, they go do business. You understand? You lie to the parents and tell them, oh, education is what I'm taking them for.
And that's just wrong.
Yeah. And then, or the ones that outrightly tell you, and then you go with them, and then there's abuse from domestic to verbal to even physical. Domestic, physical. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
There's just abuse at the end of the day. So, I mean, I feel like as much as it's been a beautiful system coming forward, don't we think that it's time to take a more modern, approach at it? I know they say putting old wine in new wine skin doesn't work, but I believe that for evolution of certain systems, there are building blocks and some structure you can put to it for a modern, fresh approach. What do you think?
I think there should be a modification of the structure going forward, because I believe it has worked well over time, but I think currently now, with the situation it is, because for instance, some of these, I've heard stories of people that I know personally that it takes more time than it has to. Like sometimes you'll be given a length of maybe 5 years to 6 years, and you end up staying there 10 years.
That's
and
crazy.
this is a skill or trade that he will have learned maybe 3 years already there.
Exactly.
So the remaining years of his life is almost wasted because you're giving it over to him.
I
It's almost
disagree
like
with that wasting of 7 or 10 years. When you're learning whether a craft, a skill, or a trade, whatever, 5, 7, 10 years is not a waste. You can't really master something and actually be exceptional at it in 3 years. That's just the
Absolutely.
truth.
I
Yes.
completely agree with you.
So
I
just the
completely agree
abuse
with
factor,
you.
yes.
I
But
guess
how
we
much of
would
that
agree on this
time?
statement.
How much of that
Stop abusing
time
people.
is actually spent doing the work you were brought for?
I think
You know,
you're learning patience, humility, time management, money management.
Bookkeeping.
And does it have to take 10 years?
You're learning life lessons. It's not just about the business, how to even take care of a home, because you live with your master and his family. So you're learning so many things. The only thing I have is it kinds of, it feels too subservient for my liking. Like, isn't there a way, like you said, to evolve it? And okay, yes, this person will work for you, learn from you, without him being your cook, your gate man, your nanny,
cleaner,
your,
everything.
like
I think
it's
these
a
are
lot. And then
exceptional
still go to the
cases.
shop and
I
work.
think they're exceptional cases. And number one, we also need to also understand that this is Africa. Some of these things, they also come into play. Like, I also want to take on, what Sarah said about, the system seems to be a little bit faulty, but I don't think it's a system fault. The system is foolproof. Yes, nothing is foolproof per se, but the system is amazing. But I think it's the individual and the human
True, you're
factor.
right.
It's just like saying school is amazing. You go to school, you fail, you blame the school. It's not the school's fault.
I guess it's the
You
person to
did some
person
certain
factor.
things that you
True,
didn't follow
true.
through. So when some of the masters don't pay up or come up with flimsy excuses, it's the fault of the master, not the model. If the apprentice takes the customer somewhere else or steals money or is shady with the books, it's not the model, it's the apprentice's problem. Now, what am I trying to say in essence is, if you look at what this has done for the Igbo tribe or the Igbo race, if you want to call it that, it has helped them a whole lot, to the point that even Harvard Business School did a research and said it's the best system in upscaling businesses, entrepreneurship, and even venture capital, because that's the earliest form of venture capital in the history of Africa and maybe globally. I need to fact check that. But what that simply means is it's a unique system that has worked for them in the 9th century up to this very moment. Take a look at the Igbo people. Generally, these people are living comfortably. Generally, they're doing very well. Generally, too, the system, they've been able to pass wealth from generation to generation, and it's a system that's been working for them.
True.
I'm sure we saw the Dirty December returning back home. We've seen all their mansions.
Yes,
We've seen all the private
so
jets
impressive.
and all of that. Now, that's a form of education that started before business schools started springing up globally. Maybe it could be the first form of business school in Africa before now. Recently, if we fast forward to today, we're beginning to see a huge increase in venture capital and venture businesses and entrepreneurship and startups and all of that. It's practically the same thing.
True.
You learn a trade, you understand the trade, we see you're good at it, they give you a startup capital, a venture capital, you go into the business, when you see you're very good, you upscale, and before you know, you become a master of your own. And this is what has played out. Funny thing is, you could go to a village and you see maybe the civilization there is not that grand. You see an Igbo man with a provision store there.
In my village, all the way in Adamawa, I remember when a scorpion stung me that night. Like, they went to a chemist and it was an Igbo man's chemist, got me some antivenom and all of that.
And you have
can
one
go to the
Nwa
most
Boy.
Remote village in Nigeria and you find them
yeah,
there.
they're everywhere.
Oh, yes.
And
Oh,
you
my
see,
God.
they're
Yes.
everywhere.
And I think they look at it like this. Okay, let's capture these people. Let them be our customers. And in that village, there will be one Nwa Boy with him, understanding and learning the trade.
Yeah.
Once he's done with his service or his apprenticeship, he goes to another town. You understand? And they don't necessarily steal your customers or your clientele. It's the human factor that comes to play when you hear evil stories such as Nwa Boys or apprenticeships taking the apprentices taking your customers or stealing your money and all of that. So the system in itself, for it to have lasted from the 9th century up to this very moment, and after the Civil War, put them back on their feet in no time, it shows that there's something the rest of the world, for Harvard Business School to come and say, hey, they've tested it. And I think the model they use the Alaba market model. Because if you go to Alaba market, you see lots of Igbo traders there, and they've seen that it's an effective way of distributing wealth.
True.
And I think other tribes should look into it to say,
Definitely.
hey, how can we tap into it? And for me to sound a little bit controversial, why don't we have the Nwa girls?
You know, I think it's also...
And this is where I know you take your attention. It will spark your interest.
So their value system, I think, okay, for them, let the boy, since provision falls on the shoulders of the men, let them go learn a trade, learn a skill, a business, something they can use to provide for their families. And the girls, they should go get an education or, learn a skill too. But for the girls, it's a way to still support her husband eventually. She can even use that her education for bookkeeping, helping his business. You see an Igbo man that is not formally educated, but he's educated in business.
I love the way you use that word.
Yes, formally educated, but he's educated in business, and his shoulder is high. My wife is a graduate.
And she has a master's.
PhD. She has a
Master's.
that kind of thing. So for them, I suppose it's the value system. Like, okay, let's
culture.
divide it. Not everybody can go to school.
True.
The family
need
can't
funds
afford
to
send everybody to school. So you go this way and you go this way.
But coming back to the same topic of the Nwa Boys, right? I don't systematically think like you say, it works in a general form because, like you said, the system might be a bit of foolproof. But then, like you said, there are always stories here and there about how the system fails people. Now, one portion which I really want to point out is that in using this system, it kind of gives ultimate power to your master over the person who is working under him.
It actually does.
It does.
Exactly.
Because you are going to be under him, he feeds you, he cares for you, he caters for you. That person is almost like God over you.
Yes, you have to pray that at the end of your service,
He actually
the fear of God.
This is what I was trying to
This
bring
is my
out of it,
point,
because
yeah,
you now have situations where they've enjoyed your presence so much,
Free
and it's almost
service.
like a toxic kind of relationship.
Yes.
Where they've enjoyed you so much and they're like, this guy is due to graduate.
Where do I even
But let
start
me
from?
keep
Where will
him
I
for
get another
year.
person?
Exactly.
Where
do I start
And then that
from?
year becomes 2 years, and then it becomes 3, and then 4, and then the person is there for 10 years instead of the 5 they were supposed to be there.
I might not really know much about maybe the governing council when it comes to how they do that, if they have, or if maybe they exist. But knowing the Igbos, I'm sure they'll have maybe their umunas or whatever they call it. I don't know what they
Council
call
of
it.
Elders,
The council of
yes.
elders who would probably counsel over things like this to make sure to say, hey, when it comes to, I think they find themselves when you don't do the right thing. I am not sure, don't quote me on this one, but I'm sure a system that has worked like this, there should be some form of a governing council or body that will protect the Nwa Boy and even the business owner. Because trust me, like you rightfully said, some stories you see on Nollywood. I saw a movie one time. I think this guy, they were tile dealers. One was, quite carefree with his funds. The other was judicious with his money. He became really big and all of that. But these things happen. It takes me back to the question of, it's simply just a human problem. You get? Nothing is technically foolproof. There should be some kind of system. Maybe before you take the Nwa Boy from his parents or from your clan, the committee or the governing council will meet and say, okay, now that you are going, we're taking an undertaking to make sure that you don't flout some of the rules, you stick to the rules. If this happens, maybe we'll fine you 10, 20 million. And this will keep the master in check, hopefully, and keep the Nwa Boy in check, so that there's going to be like a symbiotic relationship where the master gets the kind of services he deserves and the Nwa Boy gets the knowledge, the education he needs, from supply chain to bookkeeping to how to source for customers, if it's services they're providing, knowing all of these things and making sure that he does not also break the rules. And if he breaks the rule, the consequences is that your years of service will be wasted and you go without nothing. So I think there should be maybe somebody in the comment section to tell me there's something like that. Please.
But you know what you just said?
Drop a line.
Reminded me of a video. So there was this notorious master who was fond of, okay, you work for me 3-5 years or whenever the contract is supposed to expire and I'm supposed to settle you, and he would just cook up
one story.
Yes.
You stole my money.
So in that video, like everybody in the market, I don't know whether it was Alaba or where, but everybody gathered and were like, no, you must pay this boy. He's been loyal and faithful to you for how many years, and you've been doing this to many boys before. We are the, let's say, custodians. People standing in the gap and saying, no, you're not going to get away with this again. So that's
a form of counsel that will protect
exactly.
them. And talking about this recently, a video went viral on social media of this master who settled, I think, 5 of his boys about over 20 million each. It ranged from 20 million to the first 2 people. The third person got 21. I think the fourth person got 22, and the last person got 25 million. And they were so grateful because after he awarded them, there were cheers from, I think it looked like a village or a community where he got them from. Everybody was like, cheering him up and all that. Now, it shows that these boys, they probably served their master well and diligently. They now know the trade. In this economy, 20 million to start up a business with the knowledge they have, trust me, the sky will be the limit. And this is how it will continue. Now, those apprentices who are now masters of their own will also get boys, train them in that trade. So maybe they want to, go into another form of business. They will go into that business, learn the trade, and it continues. So I think it's an excellent. I wish I'm from that kind of clan or village where something like that, happened. Maybe by now it would have been 200 million naira richer.
I think people don't have the patience to even serve someone for those number of years, because actually you're not getting a salary. You're not.
No.
Yes,
you're just getting housing, shelter, and feeding, and maybe medicals.
Food, clothing, shelter, all of that.
Right, but what if you have needs that you cannot table before your Oga?
Interesting.
I suppose you table it and hope that the Oga will take
That's
pity
exactly
on you.
the point where we say that.
Yeah, so you're at the mercy of your Oga.
At the mercy. I have another question I want to ask.
I think another way, it actually even curtails that urge for you to have unnecessary wants and needs.
No, not wants. She said needs now. Like maybe you have a family problem, but you don't have a salary.
I'm sure there will be a system in place.
Yeah, there should be
a system. I don't know. I want to make a bold statement to say I trust my Igbo brothers. They would have a system in place.
Okay, so maybe the Oga will help
possibly
the boys' family.
You're rendering a service.
Home,
you're rendering a service. They've taken you away from your parents or from your ward, and you are serving this guy. There should be some form of, I don't know, kickbacks or some kind of leverage they would enjoy. Like I recently found out that some certain maids from certain parts of the country, especially the northern side, when you pay them money, there's a certain amount they send home. Like I found out recently. I was like, how much do I pay you? Why do the money is sent home? And I'm like, are you not the one doing the money? I don't want to do that. She now said, I shouldn't worry. Everything is okay. They use the money well. They keep some money for her. I was a little bit offended. I was like, no.
How does she check to find out they're keeping the money?
I asked her, she's like, don't worry, everything is A-okay. Until somebody mentioned that she pays this person XYZ amount and they take about 10% of that money
Oh,
and
so
they send
the
home.
agent or something like
I
that.
don't know. No, this is our parents, the
Oh.
relatives. They send that money back home. They keep about 90% of that money, and 10% goes home to the parents for their upkeep and
Okay.
whatnot and all of that.
Interesting.
And when I questioned this help of mine, and she said they're using the money to build their own property in the village. So that's her contribution.
Wow. Okay.
So you see,
That
I'm
makes sense.
pretty sure something, because obviously something must have happened. Your mother is sick. They won't say because you're an Nwa Boy, you must Nwa here. You're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. You must stay. I think there must be something, because trust me, with the advent of education, I believe lawyers are also involved. They have corporations. They have some of these
Most likely
things.
so.
So I'm
Yes.
sure, trust Igbo people, they are very smart. They'll put some of these things in place. Only when unscrupulous elements will come and now say, I kept 2 million. I can't find it. So therefore, I'm letting you go and all of that. And it happens. It's a human problem, but not that business model problem.
So are we going to agree it's a human factor now?
It's
Human
a human
factor.
factor. And even the boys are not always innocent, because I
True.
actually have someone that I know, like I've known him for, let's say, now it's been 9 years, but I knew him, let's say, when he first started out. He was very diligent, loyal to his master who was selling fashion
City
items.
life has corrupted him.
Yes, in this Abuja, like
City
and
life.
everything.
Yeah,
He has seen
so
steez
Yeah,
and
so
doing
7 years later, I was like, aren't you getting your freedom? He was like, very soon. And then the shop I knew, the Oga left him in charge of that shop. So that was his own freedom, and then left him with even the clients that are already used to that shop, because the Oga has like branches.
businesses.
But then he misused the opportunity. Like he was supposed to remit, because he comes to the Oga, takes wares and things like that, and then when he sells, he's supposed to remit, millions of naira. You know how expensive those things are. And then he was renegading on his own part of the agreement, and then the Oga got angry and then took him away from that shop. So he had to go and build his own client base from scratch. But I wouldn't even say it was from scratch, because he still had the likes of me who was still buying from me. I don't
him.
buy from his Oga, because
you
I've
see?
known him longer than I've known
The
his
boss.
Oga. Yes, his Oga was not always in the shop. It was him I knew. So I would say that the boys are not always innocent.
True.
Because people are trying to get ahead, crabs in a bucket, thinking of who they can step onto. And maybe they feel like, my Oga already has millions now. Let me eat this
Let me
one.
just eat this
Must
one.
I remit? That kind
Exactly.
of thing.
I
You don't
totally
even
agree
notice
with
it's
you.
missing.
I want to ask a question though, right? Does this business set, right? I do agree to the fact that it helps in building a community, like somebody trains somebody else, but does this limit the mind? Because there's a question whereas wherever your boss is doing is the trade you learn, right? So you might be good at something else, but you never get the chance to, because for instance, you were picked up at the age of maybe 14, 15, and you learned one craft for almost 10 years. And when you're 27 to 80, you won't look for another craft to learn. You keep going on the same craft. So does this limit his own mind of imagination to even do something else? Although it works for him, because he will make ends meet at the end of the day. And also, the next question I want to ask, does this also reduce the knowledge of risks? Like for somebody that has been working under another person for a long time, do you know how it feels to fail? Or to lose money in a business,
But he
to take the
sees
risks.
it now.
He sees it.
You
Well,
don't,
he's
you
part
see
of
it,
that
but you
business.
don't feel it.
He may not feel it, but he'll feel it the moment he starts his own and gets
Okay,
his
on
own.
that
Now-
one, I would have to agree that he will feel it, because it got
It's
got
part and
touched
parcel
on now.
of
Something is
it.
missing. It's
Money
even
will
if
not
they'll
move
beat
like the
or
way
go
it
and
used to
lock
move in the
up.
house
Okay,
again now.
so now-
If
Or
you
it's
people
even
were
if they'll
eating this
arrest
at
if
home,
something
you-
is missing.
It's you they'll
you know?
even come for. Like
Yes,
it's you that'll be
exactly.
arrested. You're the one they'll ask first, because you'd be the one managing the books.
Yes.
In those kind of situations, I've noticed a lot of them, they're the ones that manage the books.
So that they can
income
learn
out.
how to they
Yeah.
can learn bookkeeping.
Exactly.
Yes. They
Cash
learn
flow.
all
Cash
aspects of
flow,
the business.
assets, and expenditures, and all of that, and capital, and
Okay,
so
on
on.
the other question, does this limit the mindset of the business entrepreneur?
I don't think, because at the end of the day, you are free to do whatever you want to do with your money. Maybe while you were, serving your master, so quote unquote, you maybe notice another business, or you see another person doing another business. Why am I saying this? Now let's take POP ceilings, for example. It's almost like a new technology. Now, how did we get a massive influx of people doing it left, right, center, if some Nwa boys didn't look at it as a new prospect and decide to put money into it? Because if that's the case, it wouldn't give room for expansion or new ventures. So I'm sure they'll be like, this is a new technology. It sells faster. It's better than your asbestos and all of that. Put your money into it. And they put their money into it, and boom, look at it today.
But don't you think the time that he has spent learning a new craft, it's so hard for you to switch to something?
No,
that
but it
is
has
different?
trained him in the art of business.
Business
is
itself.
universal.
Yeah, that's
No
true.
matter
It could be
what
whatever. Maybe
minor
maybe
thing you're
you did your Nwa Boy under textile, and the new thing is maybe wood for furniture making. You have the capital at the end of the day. There's nothing stopping you from taking half of your money to do textile and go into furnitures. So it's all, at the end of the day, it's all venture. They're venturing into all kinds of businesses, but mastering one. But that does not limit your business. At the end of the day, that's why you see them very good at trade. It's simply buying and selling. They're
And
not
then a lot
manufacturing.
of those businesses are even in markets.
In markets.
So you're seeing different types of businesses and getting experiences from
Experience.
other Nwa Boys, relating and all of that.
I am sure Nwa Boys would have their own association. Like, look,
Obviously.
when they settle also, let's put our money together and do this business.
you know.
Let's do
See the
that.
other guy from the other shop across town. They're doing very well. And all they need is a capital of 100 million. We are 6, we are 5. Our settlement is about 20 million each. Let's go into it. Since you already understand the business of camaraderie, it wouldn't be a big difference or a big deal for them. They'll just, put their ventures together and obviously succeed and also get other Nwa Boys. And that's why it holds true. If each one can teach one, the world will be a better place.
True that.
And if each one can empower one, the world will be an amazing place.
Honestly,
I think it also makes them quite more settled in the mind, because you already know that for a stand, you already know that once you're done with this, your life is settled.
Don't you understand?
Yeah,
It's
so
better
you know
than
that-
that you've graduated, you
You're
now take your
graduated, you're
CV.
looking for a
And
job.
let's say, I
Yeah.
studied mass comm, I
Yeah.
can do mass communication. But
you have the
immediately,
experience, like you know
Yes.
the theories. You've been reading
Traumatized.
textbooks.
And the best way to learn is practically.
Traumatized.
Yes, and
Yes,
they learn
yes.
practically because they are there. So
Exactly.
because
definitely.
that process is like their industrial attachment. You're
I
learning
see.
how
Oh,
to
God.
do the. You're learning how to do the buying and selling. Maybe you even know where to get your raw materials
Yes,
from.
you're dealing with suppliers.
Because they'll
and
put you
all
on
of
different
that.
departments. You learn how to, maybe you'll be the one to go converse with the supplier. The next thing, you'll be the one to do stock keeping. I've seen Igbo people take stock and they don't joke with it. And that's a knowledge. That's like a skill. People go to school to learn these things. You've learned stock keeping. The next thing is bookkeeping. The next thing, knowing how to separate your
You
capital.
even know supply chain management. That is a
Thank
course
you.
in uni.
Uni,
A
supply chain
single course
management.
of-
Exactly.
Like, so many things in
And
one.
Exactly.
This actually brings another question, to be honest, because I see this not just, even the Hausa people do a lot of trading informally, and they train other people too to also come and take over shops. Now, this brings another question I want to ask. Does that mean informal education works well for us as Africans better than the formal education?
Well,
If it generates more money,
Personally, I think
perhaps.
a nice mix of both.
I think it's
Yes.
the
A
hands-on
healthy mix
approach
of
of
both.
Yeah, a healthy
informal
mix of both.
works
because
the
a lot of
hands-on
the
approach.
things you'd be doing, you do them in a more advanced way. You do them in
more
better
scientific.
systems
Yes.
in place, even maybe better than your boss is currently doing it. Like if you were to go to accounting school or learn some certain things, in class, well, not in class, just generally
on the field.
you learn. You'll be able to apply that into that business and help it grow. So that's the benefit of having both the formal and the
informal.
and
Yes.
the informal. So on the field, you're getting real life. They see and they come, and you're also getting, some education, the theory parts in the falls of the classroom. You're learning business management. You're learning business administration. You're learning the supply chain
that.
management. Just like you
Customer,
said,
customer relations.
You're learning
And
customer
this
relations.
brings us
you know?
back to them marrying wives or sending their daughters to formal schools. So the daughters
So
are
it's
the
like two make a
accountants,
whole.
the
So you
business
go and
majors,
be-
To upscale the business.
Yes.
Yes.
So those ones bridge that gap. The gap between informal and formal education, and then they bring everything together, and that's why it's Emeka and Sons business.
Ooh.
Emeka and wives, that kind of thing.
Where is the wife handling?
Which wife?
Yes, that don't. They actually do like.
That's a
If
topic for another
Emeka
day.
is a polygamist,
Wives-
then
but
Emeka and
not
wives.
really. It doesn't happen like they don't name it like that. But
Yes.
in
But
practical
it's a-
terms,
yes, it's
you
a-
see
it's
the
a
wives,
family
the
business.
wives majorly. You see them handling the books,
Yes, they do
or
that,
maybe
they do that.
even HR, or even
Customer
supply chain,
relations,
customer
all
relations.
of that.
Like there's this colleague of ours. He was like, his wife owns a business. He's not the business type. He's into doing some kind of technological whatever. But if you want anything, go and meet my wife, because he has already created that system. So it's a family. I think aside the Nwa Boys, I think the Igbo people, they've understood the concept around putting your family and creating family business, thereby generating generational wealth.
True.
Yes. Growing up, right, in high school, I also had a friend, like, during our own holidays, whenever we go out to play, as we're living our life, we're trying to find somewhere to be, his dad takes him to the shop. He stays in the shop throughout. That's his own form of maybe apprenticeship because he learns. And right now, we're sitting down here, he is there and he knows he runs the business without his dad.
Wow.
So that knowledge has already been passed down to him throughout his years, and he went through formal education. So I agree, because that mix of blend now that he has, because he went through school and he's done with it. But every time he was on holiday, he was in the shop. So the experience now mixed with the formal knowledge he has now allows him to run the business on a different divergent now. And now imagine the wealth now. His father has already taught him how to do the business.
And I have a similar story of a classmate back then in secondary school. His name is Anthony, but he loves to call himself Antobe. And he goes like this: to be or Antobe.
I
So
love that.
to be or not to be. And while we're in school, to be or Antobe. I don't know if he eventually named his business Antobe, but that's what he loved to call
We
himself.
need to Google that.
Maybe after this I'll call him up and find out, did you eventually name your company Antobe or Antobe?
That'll be very clear.
While we're in school, during break, he's always at his father's shop learning businesses and all that. The last time I looked him up on Facebook, he was somewhere in China doing some supply chain. So you see how it works. They don't. They carry the family along. They carry themselves along. They pass that knowledge and that skill. Because, for example, while we're busy maybe drawing around, jumping police and thief and all that, Anthony was already calculating plus and minus, understanding this money, you don't touch it for capital, understanding expenses and all of that, and profit and whatnot. And maybe he furthered to university, graduated, but since he already knows the business, and maybe he was given some kind of venture capital by his father to start up a business, and in no time the guy shot up in the world of business, whereby he's going to China, he's doing big scale importation and all of that, while some of us are thanking the Lord.
This is where I go to agree that we shouldn't lose a lot of our African traits or cultures just to take over the whole modernization, because you want to be modern. Because see how the craft is working for a culture over how many years, like since Biafra, and they have kept it. Look at how they bounced back after Biafra. And this is definitely one of their standing grounds.
Yes,
definitely.
Yeah, you're right. Some systems don't fit African models, African culture. We can marry the culture with our own, like take elements of it that benefit us. We don't have to discard ours completely.
Take the Chinese.
Exactly. Chinese, the Indians and all of that. Take elements that will advance your culture and your society, but also retain authentic elements of your own culture and all of that.
Very true. I totally agree with you, and I think it's.
I guess on that front, we would meet at a middle ground. I'm not still completely sold, but I do feel like there's some mentorship
what is
in there.
your browse exactly? The Igba-Boi system.
I mean, we already.
I think she's focused on the abuse and maybe people breaking the system.
And I feel she doesn't like the whole power over a person.
It's empowerment.
Okay, so power through empowerment.
So that's why I'm saying I agree now, because if there can be a healthy balance, in terms of education, there should be strike the balance between formal and informal. So as much as you're giving them information on the field, they're also getting some formal education. Then also the thing of abuse is based on the individual. So it's kind of like, let's cross our finger.
Maybe she's looking at it from the point of,
you don't really just study the person.
Gen Z Nwa Boys. Like, my mental health. You got me here to only learn trade. Why am I sweeping your compound for you? Before you took me from my house.
I actually don't mind that. I feel like there's, the place of internship and learning, but there's a place where I feel like some people abuse it.
True that.
No, I think it's a human factor. Like it's not the system. It depends on who you work with.
The human factor should be also included in the system, isn't it? Because the humans make the system.
Sometimes that's why it's good to hold, like in every system.
Separate the human being.
That's why there's always.
But now another. Sorry, so sorry to cut you. Now you see the thing about this Nwa Boy system, right? In those kind of situations, they knew from the get, this is what we're doing. I'll bring you to the city. You live in my
learn
house,
the trade.
You do this. You learn the trade, and when it's time, when I feel like you've learned enough, I'll let you go. I don't think it applies like that for some modern people that would like to practice that system. A lot of times, it's just you hanging around them for years, and them it's just like you said, for some people, not letting you progress or do,
maybe just using you.
Just using you without you seeing any benefits. Like now, even when you're done as an Nwa Boy, he'll still give you settlements for you to set up your own business. Does that happen with mentorships these days?
No, it does. Like I said, obviously there are cases, and maybe sometimes it could be isolated. Let me give you a real life example of back many years ago, I'm not talking about 10, 15 years ago, there used to be this boutique where I buy all of my clothes. And this guy, Kenneth, we're now great friends together, him and I. He was an Nwa Boy. After years of him serving his master, quote unquote, he was settled with a shop next to his master shop.
Oh, wow.
Next to. Now, if that is not
For
human
competition.
being, if that is not humanity on steroids, I don't know what that is. Because the natural
I think that's a
human
big
mind.
thing,
So they were doing symbiosis instead of
Yes.
competition.
Yes, it's not
Yes.
competition, it's symbiosis
Wow.
in that
Now,
scenario.
you know,
Yeah.
a very business-minded human being might say, no, he's going to be my competition. It was next to him. And guess what? The boss later left there. Kenneth, that's his name, as I speak to you till today, is there doing amazing stuff, venturing into other businesses. From time to time, I go there to buy, T-shirts and wares. He calls me up to say, hey, I have new stock. I have actually seen these things work. Do people fall along the way, like the path? Yes, they do. It's a human thing. Nobody, 10, 20 people will be called. At the end of the day, maybe 8 or 6 will be the chosen one. That does not mean the system is bad. You did not fit the bill, or you had other influences that derailed your focus on what you're supposed to do. Or maybe your boss turned out to be a horrible person, or maybe he got greedy. Maybe business didn't turn out good for him,
Yes,
and he
so
doesn't know how
that's
to come out to say, you know
another
what, give me time to pay you and all that. He comes up with, there are factors that could, make that system not seem good, but that does not change the fact that the system works.
I have another question though. I like the point of view you're coming from. I want to ask, so the fact that when these boys usually go for this Nwa Boy system, right, they go at a very young age at times, maybe 13, 14 or so.
Or even younger.
Yeah, or even younger. Now the question I want to ask, does this, like them going into this system, does this stem out of a place of poverty or because it was out of choice?
Like I said, it's a
Both.
system to build wealth. The system is not created to impoverish them. The system is built. Do you know what it means for you to serve someone and you get 20 million? 30 million? In some cases, 50 million?
No, that's-
in some places, they get a shop for you.
That's why the question
And-
I'm asking, was it born out of a place where you
Okay,
had
like
a choice?
desperation, like you don't have
or
a
you were
choice.
desperate
I think
just
it can
to
be
go.
both.
I
Sometimes
think-
I think it was
I think
then a
it's
trade.
a
It was also
system.
it was also a system of passing down knowledge
Knowledge
and wealth.
So
But
that's
it's
is
also
it choice?
possible that there are some
Or
people
is
that
it
don't have a
desperation?
choice. They can't
I think it was
afford
choice for most
education
of
or
them,
even
to be
to
honest.
pay.
Because I'm sure the option of you to choose, do you want to go to school or trade? And because of the way they've seen successful Nwa boys over time, most Igbo boys that I think I can say would say, I'm a business, so go to school and do what? That is why they push more of their
I feel like
sisters
for some of
and
them-
their girlfriends to
To
go
go to
into
school.
because they rather want to do business because they want to go there as the Nwa boy to learn and understand the trade before they venture into their
to
own.
their own. I think, but to be honest, in this scenario, I feel like for some of these boys, it wasn't either or. It wasn't formal education or go and be someone's Nwa boy. It was a thing of sit down at home and be helping Mama fry akara.
That is
Or-
my question.
Go to the city and follow this man and
Yes,
learn it.
that is my
Yes,
question.
The
So-
absence of choice.
Yeah,
the absence
funds
of
to
choice.
even pay someone
Oh,
to even
see, it was
teach
still
you.
a choice. There are some people that stay in the village.
Village and go there.
You
Yeah.
understand? So it was still a choice. It was just a thing of choose this day.
Well, at the end, the system works.
I think it has been ingrained in their culture, whereby as a young man, when you get to a certain age, you now ask yourself, what do you want to do with your life? You want to do business, or you want to go to school, or because the reason why I'm saying it like that, that's how I have Igbo friends. They're like, they'll tell you, no, go to school and be doing what? How much are you making? If I go and study, learn, if I go and do Nwa boy with my boss in Alaba market or maybe in Apple, after how many years? Do you know how many containers I'll be shipping in? Some of them look at that formal education as a waste of time. That is why sometimes you look at them and they say these guys are too money centric because they understand the value of what it is and they understand what they have to go through in acquiring that skill and making that money. So I don't think is a choice, is a thing of you're caught in between poverty or what. I think it's a thing of choice. They looked at it and look, I can go to school and become a doctor. Or I can go into a business, make the money, build a hospital and hire that doctor.
Absolutely. That I agree with.
So, in essence, the Igbo Apprenticeship system should be emulated across Africa. It's a system that works. It's a system that produces millionaires per capita. You know, instead of wealth just being concentrated in the hands of a few, it spreads it around. You know, for example, in the North now, you can boast and be like, oh, the richest man in Africa, the richest black man is from Kano or from the North. But then the Igbo people can say, we have so and so number of millionaires. You know, there's a quote by Thomas Sankara that says, rather than having champagne for a few, let there be clean drinking water for everybody. And I would say that's the philosophy behind the whole entrepreneurship system in Igbo land, that let no man be left behind. They say, le quarter, one negi, wokem. Like,
oh my goodness.
Wow, Linda, wow.
Yes, I had to practice
she came
that
prepared.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yes, so yes, it says, don't leave your brother behind. Don't forget your brother, you know. Carry your brother along, all of that. That's the philosophy behind it. Always carry each other along. And I think we can emulate that across Africa.
And I totally agree with you. I love that Igbo thing you said. I wish I could say it, but hey, everything she said, I agree with her.
I mean, I still have my reservations, but yeah, I dig it. I dig it. It makes sense.
Maybe when I turn into a billionaire, I'll call you as my Nwa girl. 5 years
Give me good settlement. I'll come and spend time. But
now it's becoming...
No, I will come and spend time. I'll come and spend time.
She washed plates.
Oh my goodness. And that's a wrap, honestly. I think it makes a whole lot of sense. A major shout out to the Igbo tribe. We love you guys. We love what you guys represent. We love the system. We love the business model. And I think this should be like an appeal to every other tribe out there. We're all one. Let's take the Igbo system, business model, and apply it so that if each one can teach one, and that thing she said in Igbo will make the world a better place.
Yes.